Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. If you're looking for Ukraine war news, this is the right place. It is Wednesday, June 26th. This is a daily brief. I have a lot to cover, so I'm going to move very rapidly. 1,220 Russians off the battlefield today, and your Perpetua's list shows about 60 Russian combat losses, 34 Ukrainian losses. Ukraine conducted successful operation in the area around Vovchansk. Apparently, they have control or have taken back pretty much all of Vovchansk. I don't know that they've cleaned everything out, but they've got it. Now, it's been very costly. It required them to move forces from other places on the line of contact to around Kharkiv, and that's been a distraction. And it's been a distraction on places like where Zelenskyy just visited. Zelenskyy visits Donbass to introduce new Joint Forces commander. But the headline doesn't tell you enough of this. It's not just visiting Donbass. Where is he? He's in Pokrovsk. Okay, this is the place where there's the most action. About a third of Russia's ferocity is focused here because they're trying to get to something particular. So Volodymyr Zelenskyy has made an unannounced visit to the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine to bolster morale. The Ukrainian president recorded a video address against the backdrop of Pokrovsk. Zelenskyy made the trip alongside Brigadier General Natov. Now he's the newly appointed commander of Joint Forces. I talked about yesterday how the previous commander had just been removed, and that was after the Azov chief was saying, "Hey, this guy's got to go. He's causing more." He's causing more casualties than the Russians are. Okay, the president's visit to Pokrovsk came 2 days after the city was struck by a Russian double-tap missile attack in which two missiles that were like Iskanders hit the same spot a half hour apart, killed at least 5 people, wounded 41 others. Ukrainian soldiers, outgunned and outmanned, have been struggling to hold back a significant Russian ground offensive that aims to capture the entire eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Deep State, an open-source Ukrainian analysis group, reported on Sunday that Russian soldiers had captured the village of Novoleskandrivka. I hope I got that right, bringing them closer to the Konstantinika highway, a critical supply route for Ukrainian forces. So the highway comes down somewhat like this, and it makes like a U shape, and if they can capture it in the middle of that U, they're going to cut off forces, and that'll be very bad, or cut off the main supply routes that can go both ways to forces in that area. Moscow seems intent on exploiting a strategic opportunity before Ukraine receives new military aid from the West, including F-16s. Okay, it's already summer. It's almost the end of June. Are they going to be? They're not going to be here by June. Are they going to be here by July, or will it be August, or will it get pushed back into the fall? We have yet to see. But Zelenskyy was not just introducing that general. He actually went to one of the hottest places on the front line. Not actually on the front line, but just slightly behind the front line, but still, that's gutsy. And he's just proved again and again that he has guts. Okay, Russia claims a Ukrainian artillery strike destroyed a radiation control station near Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The question would be, why would the Ukrainians want to do that? Russians might want to do that, but not so much the Ukrainians on their own soil. The Russian management of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant claimed that Ukrainian forces had attacked the plant's radiation control station in Velika, I can't pronounce that, some 20 kilometers, 12 miles from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Telegram Post says the radiation control station was completely destroyed as a result of artillery shelling by our Ukrainian armed forces. Ukrainian authorities have not yet commented on these claims, but the question is, why would Ukrainians want to do that? We just don't know yet, but we'll keep an eye on that story. It looks very much like North Korean troops will soon be in Ukraine. This was a few days ago. As part of the alliance, the North Korean military has announced that its engineer unit would join Russian forces on the ground in Donetsk Oblast as soon as next month. Jane Kiev commented, North Korean troops in Europe, while Sullivan de-escalates. No, we can't provoke them. Here's the Kyiv Independence article about that. North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine would be cannon fodder. Yeah, but they're there, and they're bolstering things, even if they are cannon fodder. I think that if I were North Korean military personnel management, I'd be questioning my choices on sending my forces to be cannon fodder for an illegal war against Ukraine. Ryder said that accelerating military cooperation between North Korea and Russia, including possible deployment of North Korean troops in Ukraine, is something to keep an eye on. North Korea has emerged as a leading weapon supplier to Russia as Moscow faces reduced military stocks. They provided Russia with 1.6 million artillery shells over the course of 6 months. So that's what's going on there. Now, at the same time, Washington is considering approving the deployment's the right word here in the Kyiv Post, the deployment of U.S. military contractors. That's not deploying U.S. military, that is sending contractors who are private civilians who can perform mechanical operations and other things on military hardware. So many of them are ex-military, but it's not the U.S. government deploying. So that's why I'm qualifying that. White House officials are thrashing out details of a plan to allow military contractors, again, not military, these are civilians who are contracted to go do this work, to deploy to Ukraine to help Kyiv's military to maintain U.S.-provided weapon systems, while stressing that the proposal has not yet been submitted or agreed to by Joe Biden. So the U.S. withdrew all of its military involved in training or other support to Ukraine's forces before the full-scale invasion in February. Since then, Washington has taken great pains to make it clear that U.S. military and other official representatives have no direct involvement in combat operations. And going back to Jay and Kyiv's comment, North Korean troops while Sullivan de-escalates, right? Well, no, we're not escalating. Okay. U.S. officials said that positioning U.S.-funded contractors in Ukraine would mean maintenance and repair for high-value equipment would be carried out much faster. Now, they would also become targets of some sort, and they know that the risk that they would be taking, but that's part of the reality. Officials cited by CNN made it clear that the deployment of U.S. contractors would be limited to essential tasks and only when adequate threat mitigation plans were developed. That could be a reality on the ground very soon. Switching gears, there was an attack in Dagestan, that's in southern Russia near Turkey. Attacks highlight Russia's vulnerability at home amid Ukraine's war. This wasn't carried out by Ukraine, but the Russians will involve Ukraine by blaming them in some way, shape, or form, just like they did the Crocus Hall attack, without any evidence. Sunday's tea attacks in Dagestan that left at least 19 people dead have highlighted Russia's growing difficulty in managing a tide of Islamist tea. The attacks carried out by 4 gunmen in Dagestan's capital and 2 by the seaside resort of Derbent appeared to catch Dagestani officials by surprise. At least 15 police officers were among those killed. Attackers also burned down a synagogue and set fire to a church, which doesn't sound like the profile of Ukrainians, right? The mostly Muslim region in the North Caucasus and southern Russia is right here, just above Turkey and Iran. This is the southernmost part of Russia over in the southwest. Okay, coming just months after the Moscow concert hall attack, where ISIS-linked militants killed 145 people in last year's anti-Semitic rioting at the Dagestan airport. You remember that? I mean, that was terrible, right? The new attacks raise concerns about a growing pool of radicalized young people in Russia, and particularly in the North Caucasus. Russian officials quickly moved to try to portray the attacks as a provocation by whom? By ISIS? Nope. By outside forces, such as the U.S. and NATO, despite ample evidence of homegrown tea in Russia stemming back to devastating wars of the 1990s in the North Caucasus. Okay, so that's what's going to play out. In fact, what happened with Crocus Hall, the last official line from Russia was that this was somehow linked to Ukraine, even though there's no evidence of that. Kadyrov, meanwhile, urged to kill all the relatives of the suspects in the attempted assassinations of law enforcement. If a suspect, this is a quote, if a suspect is connected with the Shaitans, that means like Satanists or Satan's people or something along those lines, we must punish his entire clan. And whoever encroaches on a brother policeman must realize that by blood feud, we will kill everyone, father, brother, uncle. Great, good. I mean, that's okay, Kadyrov. In his words, quote, special emphasis must be placed on countering radical ideology emanating from European countries. Okay, so that's where they are. And meanwhile, propagandists in Russia are saying things like, the West is ready to bury the whole world civilization. They're Satanists. They constantly worship death, murder, rape, robbery. Wait a minute. Who is? The West is doing that, or the Russians that are invading Ukraine right now are doing those kinds of things? They want to sacrifice the whole world to Satan. Either has gone mad, or it doesn't understand what is happening, or something else. Well, my vote is something else, and there's like this weird mirroring projection effect going on here with these Russian propagandists. Okay. So Douglas McGregor put this out 21 hours ago. It says this: breaking, investigation reveals Russian plane carrying Ukrainian POWs was downed by US-made missile. Now, I thought, wow, another something like this? What's going on? Like, remember the Russians claimed that like back in January, and it turned out not to be anything? No, he's talking about the incident back in January. The Ilyushin Il-76M aircraft was allegedly shot down by a Patriot interceptor missile. At least he said allegedly. Shot down by interceptor missile, a U.S.-made weapon, on January 24th, as per the investigators. The crash resulted in the tragic deaths of all 65 POWs, 3 Russian guards, 6 crew members who were on board. Okay, now let's say that that's true. If that's true, where's the evidence? Because Russia collected the remnants of the Il-76 that was shot down on January 24th in Belgorod region. This just came out. You see this in NOL reports yesterday. They reconstructed everything. The plane was reportedly hit by Patriot SAM. Russia claimed there were 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war on board heading for an exchange, but they never provided any evidence. But if they can reconstruct this, why don't they provide the evidence of the POWs that were actually killed rather than just say it? Like, provide the actual evidence. But they can't, because it didn't happen. So they lie, and then they lie, and then they lie about lying, and so do the repeaters like Douglas McGregor. Okay. Now, Russia's having a problem, a homegrown crime problem, with the murderers that they send to Ukraine, who go and murder a lot there, and then they come back and continue to murder. This is the British intelligence update. Several Russian Duma deputies have recently expressed concern about the threat posed to law and order by returning ex-prisoners who have been fighting for the Russian armed forces in Ukraine. The chairperson for the Duma Committee on Family Protection, Issues of Paternity, Maternity, and Childhood, Nina Ostania, told a Russian newspaper, Gazeta, that there will be more crimes as these ex-prisoners are not socialized. She said that ex-prisoners should be constantly monitored by law enforcement agencies, and society need to be protected from such people. Well, so what's happening? The Russian general bureaucracy has ceased to publish official crime statistics since January 1, 2023, likely partly over the possible rise in violent crime. The independent Russian media outlet Verska reported in April 2024 that at least 107 Russians had been killed and another 100 seriously injured by veterans returning from the conflict. The recruitment of prisoners into the Russian armed forces, and remember, they were taking all kinds, including murderers or rapists and whatever else, into the Russian armed forces, and the implications for Russian communities when they are released, is a practice and a risk that the Russian government is prepared to take to maintain its war in Ukraine. And then at the same time, we see former Wagner PMC member, his name is Zamkov. He killed more than 200 people in the war, and his apartment was taken away from him for debt. Now he and his wife and his 3 children are homeless and owe the Putin regime more than 1 million rubles. What did I fight for? Why did I kill people? I didn't know at all. I came to another country and conducted these operations there. I killed more than 200 people. Why did I take their lives and bring grief to their families so that I could return to my country and find myself useless? Well, that's a good question. You should have stayed home. And while we're on the topic of home, among the 90 Ukrainian heroes who returned home from Russian captivity are 52 Azovstal defenders from Mariupol. Over 2 years of starvation and torture, and they're returning home. I'm sure they're happy to be home. Mom, don't cry. We'll see each other soon. Ukrainian Marine Vladislav, 22, gets to finally call his mom after returning from Russian captivity. And I'll leave you last with this one image, kissing the ground, home. All right, my friends, thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.